There are people who genuinely hold the belief that the carnivore diet is not sustainable and that it's an eating disorder. Now, these people, they say it with a straight face too. They genuinely believe it when they say these things. So, in today's video, we're going to be breaking these statements down and evaluating whether or not they hold to be true. The first claim is that eating only meat isn't sustainable for humans because we need variety. And the second claim is that, well, by only eating certain foods because you won't eat the other poison, it's an eating disorder. You shouldn't be scared of foods. And these aren't just some random people on the internet either. These are people with actual degrees in human nutrition. The only reason people say that eating only meat isn't sustainable is because they themselves are addicted to food. These ultra processed foods are quite literally designed by teams of scientists to make it so they're as addicting as they possibly can. Even modern fruits and vegetables nowadays, they've been crossbred for tens of thousands of years. The fruit we consume nowadays is 10 times sweeter than it used to be. In fact, all the vegetables that we commonly consume aren't even made in nature. They're all variants of some other plant. Broccoli is literally a hybrid strain of wild cabbage. These people think that because they couldn't live without it, that nobody else can. But here's what they don't understand about the carnivore diet. First and foremost, your dopamine reward pathways change. When you eat these ultra processed foods, it releases tremendous amounts of dopamine. And then when you eat other foods, more natural foods like meat, it doesn't release quite the same amount of dopamine. So these people think, well, I get more dopamine from this food and therefore I couldn't live without it. Because if I don't eat it, because my brain's wired to seek pleasure, I'm going to always think about it. And therefore, they need variety, allegedly. But what these people don't know is that after 2 weeks of not eating something, your brain completely forgets how much dopamine it got from it. So all these super high dopamine foods, wow, your brain can no longer remember that. And because dopamine works like alcohol, in the sense that you build a tolerance for it, over time, even the more moderate amount of dopamine you got from the meat, because your tolerance for dopamine is lower, this amount right here will feel like this amount. As well as the fact that your taste buds change. When your taste buds are exposed to all this ultra processed garbage that's ridiculously sweet, contains the perfect ratios of salt, fat, and sugar, and it hits the bliss point, they become seriously messed up. There's this contrast effect. You have this super sweet, super flavorsome food, and then you eat something more plain like a steak, and it just doesn't seem to have as much flavor. However, over time, as your taste buds no longer have this stuff, meat starts tasting better and better. To me now, it is unbelievable the amount of flavor I can get from a regular old steak. Another misconception that they have is that you're going to get sick of meat because, well, you get sick of every other food. Well, here's the thing. The reason you get sick of eating something is because the toxins from that food build up. And so over time, as your body becomes more and more poisoned, it starts sending you a feedback mechanism in the sense that it no longer tastes as good. And there are toxins in every single plant, be it vegetables, be it fruits, because wow, the sole goal of any plant is to defend itself. And because it can't defend itself like animals can, through methods such as kicking, running, biting, it has no choice but to develop defense compounds. In every single plant that exists, there is a large quantity of these defense compounds. So no matter what plant you consume, on a long enough time horizon, it will start tasting worse and worse. But with meat, because there is not a single one of these compounds identified in it that are harmful for us, we can continue to eat it without starting to get sick of it. Have you ever seen a lion get sick of eating gazelles? The argument that we need variety is just a complete fallacy. The only people that say this, again, are the ones who are addicted to food. For a species to break down a plant, it must eat that plant for millions of years. Even animals that exclusively eat plants, they can only eat some plants. If goats and pandas, two herbivore species, swapped diets, they would both get incredibly sick because they haven't adapted to eat that plant, and therefore they don't have the mechanisms to break down the defense compounds in those plants. Humans have not eaten plants for the majority of our existence, and therefore, by eating plants, it's going to be harmful to us. The other thing you'll hear is that it is an eating disorder to not eat certain foods. The funny part about this is that the propaganda machine has actually convinced these people that what they're eating is food. If something makes you hungrier after you eat it because your blood sugar spikes rapidly and it comes crashing down below its baseline, your body thinks it's dying and you become ridiculously hungry. And you only eat it because it tastes nice and it contains no nutrients. This food that you're eating isn't food. It's a highly addictive drug. Take a look at the ingredients on the back of these processed foods. What you're eating is a combination of lab-made chemicals designed very carefully to taste as nice as possible. To me, it borders on insanity that people can go on the internet and say to people with a straight face, if you don't eat the ultra-processed garbage, you have an eating disorder. And like I said at the start, these people say it and they genuinely believe what they're saying. Absolute insanity. But here's some interesting statistics for you. Over 40% of people will get cancer. 1 in 2 people will have some cardiovascular disease. 35% of people will get diabetes. And seemingly everyone is depressed and anxious. We live in one of the least stressful environments in human history. Seriously, you can whip out some magical device, press a couple of buttons, and have food delivered to your house. Our ancestors were fighting tigers with their bare hands at some points. And now all of a sudden, humans are chronically stressed out. I wonder if it has anything to do with the fact that all this food we're consuming is poisoning us. Our cells are completely destroyed and they can't produce adequate amounts of the hormones that we need to feel good. Something tells me that has something to do with it. In fact, I have a whole video on this topic coming soon. But somehow, not eating the stuff that is having these incredibly detrimental consequences across society is bad and an eating disorder. The people who eat this stuff, they're the ones with the eating disorder. They are the addicted junkies. In summary, the carnivore diet is the most sustainable diet on the planet. It's the proper human diet. If you've somehow convinced yourself that not eating the ultra-processed garbage is an eating disorder, then you are so brainwashed, it's almost incomparable. I may have come across a bit rude, a bit brash maybe, in this video, but what I'm saying is 100% true. And if you're watching this and you're addicted to food, if you can look past that, I think you'll agree with me. Now, I'm sure your favorite fitness influencer or nutritionist online will disagree with me completely. I wonder if that has anything to do with the fact that they sell supplements made from plants that contain 20 different ingredients but are somehow good for you. I'll be willing to bet there's a good chance they do, or they're at least sponsored by them. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing. See you lot next time.